Welcome to Master Student, where knowledge is true wealth. Welcome to Master Student. Here today we will be watching a Dr. Phil Valentine lecture. He will be talking about dark matter consciousness, in other words, the subconscious mind, in other words, the shadow self, or one may say he's talking about the great dragon or the great mother. There's many different perspectives to view this information. I just gave a few. Let's get into the knowledge. Also, peace to the God. Dr. Phil has gave me a lot of wisdom, knowledge, wisdom, and firm understanding over the years. I started tapping in the field, 2020? He's been dropping knowledge since before I was conceived in flesh. So, peace and blessings to the God. Let's build.
Ptolemy himself was said to have been a scholar of sorts, or at least he is a wannabe. But he had the same Greco-Roman delusions of grandeur, where he wanted to be declared a god. So he read many of the translated works in his library, and he discovered to his amazement that virtually all of the many and diverse systems related to philosophy, religious practice, and the sacred sciences were literally based on one and the same conceptual principle. The evidence in the library showed without a doubt that all of the ancient sciences, religions, and philosophical writings were based on but one grand, and for our purposes here, African cosmological unity, which in itself had a legacy that pointed to a time even before most ancient, more African, let me just say, there is no place in the past that you could dig in that you will find your origin.
That's a fact.
Because you don't have an origin. You always was, always will be.
That's a fact.
And the problem is that every time we dig up and find Lucy, we're only...
I don't want to interrupt the God so early on, but what he's talking about is Gnosticism. You can find this in Gnosticism, I should say. He's not talking, well, in a sense, he's talking about Gnosticism. You tap in with Gnosticism, you understand that if you have a soul, you have always been and always will be. A spirit is that which animates the body. Excuse me, I'm eating these lifesavers. But a spirit is that which animates the body, while a soul is a light or a thought form or part of the or the all condensing itself into a particle. Light itself, the all being condensed into an aspect rather than all. If that makes sense to many, or some, I should say. This is all occult and information found in Gnosticism. Peace to the God. Let him drop the knowledge. I just wanted to add that piece in. Plus, I'm eating this candy. Peace to the God.
A point in the reference of evolutionary consciousness. And that's where I'm going today. When we trace the evolutionary history of African spirituality to the time of its origins, we find documentation that reveals there was never a time that man was not. Let me say that again. There was never a time when man was not. That long before there was an Africa, an Alkebulan.
So the God didn't build on that. I don't know if he's going to build on it later. Let me just say this. The 7 universal laws. You know what I'm saying? One of the universal laws of polarity. If there's a hot, there's a cold. If there's a solid, there's a liquid. If there's spirit, there's man. Point blank, period. Therefore, if the soul has always existed, so is man. All has always existed. In order to be all has always existed. That's a concept that's going to go over a lot of you motherfuckers' heads. But that's a fact. In order to be all has always existed. There is nothing new under the sun. You may think it's new. It might be new to you. That's because you just experiencing this aspect of yourself for the first time. But there's many aspects of self. There's plenty, and not that I need validation from a fucking scientist with a PhD, but there's many scientists that have proven parallel realities. So if there are because there are parallel realities, with that being said, there are many different aspects of self, of your current self, let alone other aspects of self. So all has always existed. Bringing it back to what the God just said. Man has always existed. The soul has always existed. Spirit has always existed. In order for either or to exist, man has to exist because there must be a physical aspect. There must be a polarity. Peace to the God. Let's build back on the information.
Time when the continental masses of Earth were once joined into one great land mass, called in several ancient texts Pangaea and Mu. Ancient stone tablets, scrolls, and manuscripts hidden within the underground vaults of the Vatican and in the vaults of major European and Arab-controlled museums say that the Earth was once inhabited but by one people, us, from one source, Sirius Mu, whose remnants can be found in the floors of the Atlantic Ocean, under the ice of the Antarctic and the North Pole, in the waters off Cuba, in the waters off the Gulf of Mexico, and in central China, as well as off the coasts of Japan. All of the above being remnants of a great global catastrophe, and that the survivors of this cataclysm were the indigenous peoples who today call themselves the Twi, the Bantu, the Yanomamo, the aboriginals of the so-called Americas of Mexam, off of the Fiji Islands, Papua New Guinea, and the Australian continent. The libraries of Alexandria showed that all the ancient religious philosophies were based entirely on the astrosophic principles of the grand cosmic cycles of unity. That all so-called races and nations of the earth, from the original blue-black, purple-black, to the brown-black, and yes, even the green-black melanated peoples, worship cosmic deity under one grand harmonious system. And here's a note. Akhenaten was not the first to postulatize to the notion of oneness of the Creator. He simply resurrected an ancient concept older than Kemet itself. Ptolemy unknowingly gathered together this evidence of the one original system of cosmic unity into one of the greatest centralized repositories of religious, spiritual, scientific, and metaphysical information known at that time. All the evidence showed that this grand unity of spiritual, theological, science, and worship prevailed in principle throughout ancient earth. That is, until the 4th century AD. Beloved brothers and sisters, mark this time very carefully and pay the closest attention, because it was in this century that what we now refer to as African spirituality came under the most relentless, brutal, and debilitating attack. The war against the arcane sciences of our ancient Afro-Kemetic masters, or better yet, the war against evolutionary consciousness, began under the organized leadership of a man named Constantine, the so-called Great. Constantine, the founder and first Pope Caesar of what became known as the Roman State Church of Christ and Christianity. Many historians claim that the first popes of Catholicism were black, and rightly so.
I'm going to just chime some knowledge in for y'all. Some history, I should say. When Christianity was first introduced to Caesar, understand that Caesar wanted to be God. So he had priests rewrite scripture to make it seem like Caesar was God. Let the God build.
These men were royal appointees, rewarded for their part in making Constantine Caesar, like Pope Sylvester, who at that time was nothing more than a bishop of the Christosites. in Rome. Now, believe it or not, beloved, black people today in the main haven't the vaguest clue. Not one single clue in their present state of socialized consciousness, just what this Roman state church and its religion of bloodletting has done to the arcane archetypal essence of African spirituality worldwide, nor what its sustained influence has done and is still doing to African peoples over the last 500 years on this continent and throughout the worldwide diaspora. See, beloved, to study African spirituality in its proper context here in the contemporary world, you must first learn to recognize what it is not. The first step to enter over and understanding what African spirituality is to recognize what it is not. And we must see and study what it has become through its diverse mutations, through its theological derivations as Judaism, Islamism, New Ageism, and Christianism. Since all of these representative mutations came about as a result, a direct result of conquest, and a brutally traumatic conversion process that specifically targeted the African spiritual mindset, warping and contorting its cosmic focus away from our original scientific teachings of the abstract, unitary, astrosophic principles of cosmic law. As a result of this theological mutations and their influence taking precedence, the quintessence of African spirituality now lies comatose, buried within the ecclesiastical dogma.
I know the God throwing a lot of words at y'all. Let me put it plain and simple. You motherfuckers been asleep. Everybody who has a soul, your ass been asleep for many years. And I'm not talking about just in this incarceration, this reincarceration. Not just this time around. You've been asleep before. Nigga, if you still sleep, understand, nigga. Or if you was asleep, nigga, and you just now waking up, nigga, you been in the sleep, nigga. Good morning. Fuck is you talking about? You know what I'm saying? That's what the God is saying. You been asleep. This information hasn't been accepted by the masses, let alone hasn't been pushed to the forefront by the masses, nor for the masses. This information is called occult because it's hidden in plain sight. This is called metaphysics because we're not just talking about the physical. We're talking about that which is beyond flesh. The God is giving you gnosis and understanding of it. Peace to the God.
Of a theopsychotic thought complex.
Excuse me.
And how has this pathological thought complex propagated across the globe? Well, as I've always said, like a disease, it happened in degrees. With the creation of this new state church, the confounding fathers of this new religion went all out to assure the success of their new enterprise. And what did they do? They set about suppressing and destroying all other existing competition. And so off to Alexandria they went, where they skillfully interpolated what they wanted from the treasuries of that library. And what did they do? They copied the scrolls of Hessus from the Druids. They copied the story of Krishna from the Dravidian manuscript. Gerald Massey found hundreds of similarities between Jesus and Krishna. They copied the story of Orpheus from the Etruscans, the story of Mithras from the Persians, who we call Chris. They copied the story of Bel Minor from the Chaldeans. They copied the story of Iao from the ancient EU people, from which the northern Caucasoid race called the Khazars plagiarized and renamed themselves Jews when their king converted in the 7th century. They copied the mythos of Jason and the Argonauts from the Greeks. They copied Jess, the Redeemer, from the Phoenicians, Tammuz, Bacchus, Dionysus, Hercules. But just as important as their plagiarization of Krishna, they outright stole the entire story of Heru from the Kemites. Heru, the Redeemer. Gerald Massey again found 100 and...
Y'all don't understand. The God is dropping so much fucking science right now. That's why I keep stopping it. Because it's not one fucking verb that's coming, one verb, one noun, nigga. One of anything coming out of his fucking mouth This is knowledge, wisdom, and firm understanding. He's telling you that every fucking culture, every fucking religion, all are one and the same. It's different degrees of the same information. He's telling you different cultures that take deities, or symbols, I should say. Let's not fuck deities. They're taking symbols. Different cultures are taking these symbols and utilizing these symbols in their cultures, and either keeping the same meaning of that symbol or adding a different meaning to that symbol. This is called occult fucking information. Peace to God, nigga. You gonna hear me say this a lot. That's a God. He did knowledge, wisdom, and firm understanding himself. You know what I'm saying? And I'm steady doing the knowledge my damn self. Peace to him.
7 similarities between Jesus and Horus. Each and every one of the above characters and more, from different ages and time periods, all were known as the Christ or the Christ or the Anointed One. With the creation of this new state church, they also copied the story of Hercules, which was Set. When Set and Horus came together, Horus rose and set in the west. Yes, my beloved Christian brothers and sisters, I'm talking to you now.
He just gave y'all more. I gotta stop it because we 20 minutes in, and I don't even know how many times I done stopped this. The God is steady giving information that is going over motherfuckers' heads. I did this video today. Excuse my language, but at the same time, if my language disturbs you, this is not the information meant for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking like this because I'm very passionate about this information. This is me expressing myself. If you have a problem with how I express myself, peace and blessings to you. Please don't like or subscribe. Get the fuck off the channel. Go read something. But I'm going to say this. Damn, God, I just lost my train of thought. What was the God talking about? I'm going to take it back so I can see what the God was talking about. 2148. Oh. He said Osiris rose in the west. I believe that's what he says, or Horus rose in the west, one the other. Anywhere it go, it's the same energy. You know what I'm saying? It's a different symbol for the same energy. It's just the energy is a little different. All we talking about is aspects of your own subconscious mind, Negro. You know what I'm saying? So I'll go into that on a different video. But the point that the God is making is Osiris rose in the west. If we're looking at it from the physical aspect, where is North America located? Excuse me. Where is North America located? North America is located in the west. Osiris rose in the west. This is not only a metaphysical story, but a physical story as well. Because I gained enlightenment. Osiris rose. You know what I'm saying? My Kundalini rose. You know, Shiva rose. My pineal anointed. You know what I'm saying? Christ died and was reborn, nigga. When I gained knowledge of self, nigga, in the West. The God is giving y'all an advance of cult information. A lot of motherfuckers not going to understand it. It's going to go over your head. I'm here to break it down for you and to give you some type of understanding. Well, I can't give you an understanding. I'm going to give you my understanding. Hopefully, you gain some information through my understanding. Peace to the God.
Yes, my beloved Christian brothers and sisters, I'm talking to you now. They copied, interpolated, twisted, and outright distorted all of the ancient spiritual stories on record to use as the foundational premise of a special book they were preparing, their in-house manual, a book that was to become known in the Greek as the Helios Biblios, the Book of the Sun, more commonly known through its Protestant translator and editor, one Sir Francis Bacon, a.k.a. William Shakespeare, Edward de Vere, as the King James Version of your daily Bible, or your Holy Bible, or your Holy Babble. Now, to make their distortions of the African spiritual sciences less conspicuous and less recognizable to the more diligent inquiring minds, they made the Bible into an ingeniously well-crafted work of, listen carefully, fables factualized, allegories literalized, symbols personalized, drama historicized, and cosmic forces anthropomorphized. Let me say that again. This is all your Bible is. Fables factualized, allegories literalized, symbols personalized, drama historicized, and cosmic forces anthropomorphized. With skillful hands, the Roman scribes perpetuated monumental changes for the purpose of destroying any connection of the origins of their works and the origins of their saviors to the myths, allegories, fables, and symbols of our ancestors' spiritual sciences. Now listen carefully. Some of the most conspicuous changes made to the ancient tenets of African spirituality through the principles of unitary law were: the S-U-N of the universe became the only begotten S-O-N of God. John 3:16. The 12 celestial gates, or metaphysically speaking, the cosmic grid of Earth's third density space-time consciousness zone, called the 12 signs of the zodiac, became the 12 apostles of their gospel Jesus.
Don't hurt nobody.
3. Got to.
Bring them up. Bring the pain.
I gotta hurt some Christians up in here today. I'm sorry. Sometimes the truth cuts, you know, but it takes a little time to bleed. You may go home and all of a sudden you're starting to bleed, and what happened? 3. The Afro-Kemetic and Dravidian principles of the redemption of man through the reincarnational cycles were ordered removed from the spiritual literature of the Bible. No longer would redemption through cycles of physical rebirth, where the soul undertook its own personal, deliberate biospiritual effort to transcend, where the human mind would use its focus, intent, and attention to alchemically transmute the cellular molecular genetics of the atomic temple through the disciplined retention of the man's sperm seed and the disciplined retention or stopping of the monthly loss of vital blood essences and eggs by the woman. No longer would this eternal science of the ancient masters constitute the higher paths to personal redemption. No longer. Instead, redemption, according to the Roman State Church, became a vicarious and literal blood sacrifice, a blood-bathing, blood-drinking, blood-washing process where any criminal, be he murderer, child molester, lawyer, or political despot, could be cleansed of all their evil and sin and achieve unilateral forgiveness and absolution. The one condition for this ticket to paradise being that they only have to be washed in the blood. Accept and believe in a personal Savior who was brutally murdered and then physically resurrected to save all our asses. All of this on your behalf. Mark 6:16, Revelation 1:5. Now forgive me for interjecting at this point, my beloved brothers and sisters, but if you were to look carefully and examine the underlying logic, listen carefully, the subtextual mindset behind a belief in doctrine, you just have to ask yourself logically, is it any wonder why black Afro-Americans, Negroes, niggers, the majority of which are Christians, in fact, all black descendants of the captivity, haven't yet received 1 red cent in reparation? It's simple. Let's connect the dots and see why. By black people, Negroes, accepting the doctrine of vicarious atonement. Vicarious atonement means somebody else save your ass. Just worship and believe, and you will see the kingdom. Because God, Jesus, got your back. By accepting the doctrine of vicarious atonement and accepting this belief structure as your own, you have not only denied the very existence of your ancient ancestors and your true our story, history, you have in effect forgiven your oppressor of his debt to you. For by his acceptance of this personal savior, the oppressor's sins against you are forgiven. And since now you believe as he does, you and Jesus have forgiven him, and therefore he don't owe you a damn thing. Now, I want you to check the science. Jesus done forgiven the white boy. You being a Christian, you forgave his ass. And now you're going to ask him, look, I forgave you, but look, you know. He said, no, you're going to get your reward afterward. Now remember, since Jesus the Christ is a fable, and your government is one nation under that fable, their God, your acceptance of his existence puts you into the fable or the speculation as well. Thus, you have no history, ancestors, no nation, but the one you have now believed you. Now, this one thing you have, the one you now have, the one he gave to you through your acceptance of the fable Lord Jesus Christ. Once you say, I am washed in the blood, that's the blood of your ancestors. This is what the metaphysical underground calls being caught up in the matrix. You see, indigenous melanated people do not see that the European has structured his present paradigm after the Shatar law of the impostor Jew. This government is a quasi-theocracy where your belief in the system makes it real. At its core, the government is a fable, a fiction. It is a direct reflection of the Roman state, church, fable. If you buy into one, you have automatically bought into the other. Now let's take a short look at the forming of the early church. Christian Bible says, by their fruits shall you know them. Let the church say, amen. All right now. All forms of Christianity practiced around the world stem from but one root. Let me say that again. All forms of Christianity today practiced around the world stem from but one root. And regardless of what you may think by those you professing, you could be Anglican, you could be Baptist, you could be all of it. All Christianity is guilty by association, because all forms of Christianity is Roman. Its root, the root of Christendom, is in the Vatican and Rome. And believe it or not, beloved brothers and sisters, when the Moors fell over here, it was the Pope that gave permission for Islam to be practiced on this soil. Let me repeat that again, because a lot of my brothers, being a Moor myself, that was a little hard for me to swallow when I heard that. Muslim religion, quote unquote, Islam, the Pope gave permission for it, just like the Pope had to give permission for Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to be practiced here as well. Because the Pope is the ruler of the planet. Period. He overrules all law. Period. Read the history of the Roman state church from its beginning, and you will have the most profound understanding of the entire world's affairs today. You need to see a movie called Kingdom of Heaven. Incredible movie. And that's how it's been going, back and forth. Two factions of two bastard, aborted fetuses of ancient Kemetic law fighting back and forth for one another, saying that they got the true God, killing one another. So now let's examine some of the evidence given by those who lived around the time of Christianity's beginning in Europe. Let's go back to the scrolls and see what the people who were there at that time had to say about the origins of Christianity. Remember, beloved, all persecution by the Church of Rome written on the pages of ecclesiastical history began with Constantine and extends to the present day. In fact, the Christian emperor was the first to forbid free thought. And Christian priests were the first. Christian priests were the first. Let me say again, Christian priests were the first to burn books. In a group of writings called the Hibbert Lectures, and you can go back, I'm going to give you the proof. The Hibbert Lectures, a man named Renan, R-E-N-A-N, translates the following. He says, quote, "We search in vain through the collection of Roman laws before Constantine for any enactment aimed against free thought, or in the entire history of the emperors for the persecution of abstract doctrine. Not a single savant was disturbed. Men whom the Middle Ages would have burned, such as Galen, Lucian, Plotinus, all lived in peace, protected by Roman law." In other words, before Constantine came, free thought, which was one of the thinking processes handed down, or the way to think handed down from your ancient African ancestors, was the order of the day. T.W. Dewan, you need to get his book called Bible Myths. This is page 434. Quote, "It was a common practice," listen Christians, "it was a common practice among the early Christian fathers and saints to lie and deceive if their lies and deceit helped the cause of their church," end quote. Lactantius, the eminent Christian author of his time, wrote, and I quote, "Among those who seek power and gain from their religion, there will never be wanting the inclination to forge and lie from it by the church." From Count Volney, Ruin of Empire, Dr. John Henry Clark talked about that book. Page 177. It says, "We see an account." Now check it out. This guy's name in Count Volney's Ruins of Empire, a man named Nazianzus, N-A-Z-I, take that one in, A-N-Z-U-S, writing in the Scholar of Rome, he says, quote, "A little jargon is all that is necessary to impose on the people." Listen carefully. "A little jargon is all that is necessary to impose on the people. The less they comprehend, the more they admire." Let me say that again. The less they comprehend, 50 Cent, the more they admire. Our forefathers and doctors have often said, not what they thought, but what circumstances and necessity dictated, end quote. In Gibbon's Rome, volume 2, pages 79 and 80, Gibbon writes of Eusebius, Bishop of Caesarea, one of the architects of the Nicene fraud that became Christianity, quote, "The gravest of the ecclesiastical historians, Eusebius himself, indirectly confesses that he has related only what might be redounded to the glory of the church, and that he would suppress all that would tend to disgrace that religion." The Eusebius, he spoke of his character, less tinctured with credulity and more practiced in the art of court than that of almost any of his contemporary. What he was saying was, this sucker knew how to lie, he knew how to cheat, and make it sound truthful. Johann Lorenz von Moschayem, in his book Church History, Johann Lorenz von Moschayem, in his book Church History, volume 1, page 198, said, quote, "It was held by the church that it was not only lawful, but praiseworthy to deceive, and even to use the expedient of a lie in order to advance the cause of truth and piety." The historian Besobre, in his history, this is French history, Histoire de Manichee, he says, "We see in the history of Christianity, of which I have related, a sort of hypocrisy that has been perhaps too common at this time. That churchmen, listen, not only do not say what they think, but do say the direct opposite of what they think. Philosophers in their cabinets, out of them they are content with fables, though they know well they are fables. Nay, even more, they deliver honest men to the executioner for having uttered what they themselves know to be the truth. How many pagans and atheists have tortured and burned holy men under the pretext of heresy? Every day do hypocrites consecrate, and make people adore the host or communion, though they are well aware and convinced as I am that it ain't nothing more than a piece of bread. End quote. The theologian Reeves, in the Apologies to the Father, in a book called the Stigmata or the Syntagmia, says, quote, "It was a Catholic opinion among the philosophers that pious frauds," let me say it again, pious frauds were good things, and that the people ought to be imposed upon in matters of religion. Again, from the Syntagmia, quote, "He purposely wrote these in Latin, that it might serve for the instruction of the clergy only, and not come to the knowledge of the laity or the people, because too much light is hurtful for weak eyes." T.W. Dewan, again, there can be no doubt, listen carefully, from the evidence found, that had the objections of Porphyry, Heraclius, Celsus, and other opponents of the Christian faith been permitted to come down to us, the plagiarism of the Christian scriptures from previously existing pagan documents is the specific charge they would have resented or presented by us, or to us. These works were ordered burned by the Christian emperors. And now, beloved, in the final stages of my contribution to this theme, I would like to offer the following. And I'm a little reticent about having to use the following example as a qualifier for what I have presented, but in this case, necessity overrules prudence. In his book, Origin of Species, Charles Darwin spoke about a man who took care of a large flock of birds, namely pigeons. Now listen carefully. I want you to listen very carefully. I want you to just put aside, well, you can't help that, because if you're really listening to me, you're not thinking. You know that? Do you know how you can stop your thinking? By learning. Learning stops thinking. Let me say that again. Everybody want to go into all kind of meditations.
I'm fucked up.
You don't need to go into Om and all that old nonsense. Just start learning. Because right now you ain't thinking.
What a lot of motherfuckers don't understand is this. I'm going to speak on this. This is not about good and bad. He said you're not thinking when you're learning. This is a fact. I don't have other thoughts roaming through my mind while I'm gaining information. I'm taking in that information. You damn right I'm not thinking. I'm taking in the information. I'm putting that in the subconscious, and I think about that later and bring it back to the forefront, to the conscious. In the process of learning, absolutely not. I am not thinking, because I don't need nothing in the way of me bringing in information to the subconscious. This is not about good and bad. This is about understanding the mind. Peace to the God.
Think about that. Now you know how they got you. Because the problem is that you don't understand as African peoples, as melanated peoples, that the greatest wealth that you pay to this devil is your attention. Because that's what they ask you to do. What? Pay attention. That's right. So now you're paying attention, they're getting wealthy. It's when you stop paying attention that they kill a few of y'all. Black boy gets shot by police 27 times. Now they got your attention. Now you're off the spiritual path and you're thinking along their path. Now, if you're going to sit down and cry about it, then you're dead. Go ahead and kill the man who killed that boy, then you're all right.
Say it again.
But don't sit back and, oh my God. Do something about it and then go back to thinking. In his book, Origin of Species, listen carefully now. Charles Darwin spoke about a man who took care of a large flock of birds. They were pigeons. These pigeons were distinguishable by what appeared to be an infinite variety of ornamental designs. They were all types, every shade of subtle blues, subtle greens, blacks, and grays. All were adorned with a wide variety of marks that elegantly characterized their individuality. Now, this bird handler gathered up his colorful variety of pigeons and took them out to a deserted island, way far from his home, and released them into the wilds, where these birds settled in and began to establish a colony. After 10 years or so, the bird handler returned to the island, and to his surprise, he finds that something amazing has taken place. The blacks, the browns, the grays, the iridescent greens, the iridescent blues, the stripes, the spotted, the ringed, the striated feathers, varieties, and beautiful, beautiful ornamentations of birds he released into the wilds had all but disappeared. All of their children had metamorphosized into this slate, dark blue generational type, each of them with a monotonous black ring that repeated itself on every one of their wings. All of the beautiful variety of iridescent colors, patterns, and designs in their feathers and characteristics completely disappeared. Now, in staying consistent with this theme, Darwin also made mention of the characteristics of the cultured rose and the cultivated strawberry. How, when left unattended, they shrank back and degenerated and reverted back to an appealing shrub and vines and weeds. This devolutionary process he called the principle of reversion to type. Now, beloved, let's touch upon that theme. These examples may be construed in many ways, but for our purposes, there can be only one interpretation. The feather characteristics of the nurtured, cultivated, cultural birds are symbolic of the culture-centric expressions of African spirituality that were perfected within the confines of a self-actualized, self-cultivated, self-contained, self-enriching, self-evolving, self-correcting, self-healing, self-perpetuating, self-preserving, self-regulating, self-supporting, self-sufficient, self-sustaining paradigm dynamic of consciousness, where the vast variety of feathers for Ma'at represented the vast variety of creative achievements attained by African civilizations, as with other indigenous peoples around the globe. Here we use the markings and colors of the birds as the symmetric equivalent symbolic of the expressions of African spirituality. The blacks were spiritual sciences, the yoga, the meditation, the mathematics, the mystery system. The browns were the agriculture, the botany. The grays were the sculpture and the art. The iridescent blues and greens was the alchemy, the metallurgy, the medicine. The stripes was the architecture, geology. The spotted was the astronomy, the astrology, the psychology. The striated was the art of war. All representative of a highly advanced, sophisticated, self-evolving spiritual civilization. Then it came to pass that these diverse Africans and their individually unique expressions of spirituality began to experience a series of sustained, brutal attacks for over the next several hundred years. This ongoing strategy or tragedy, eventually caused them to become traumatized captives. They were rounded up, displaced, and taken to hostile foreign environments where their self-evolving mechanisms of cosmic consciousness, their African spirituality, were systematically and savagely brought to a screeching halt. What once constituted an internal dynamic of self-evolved energy that was used by the African mind for the development of higher awareness became a pathological fight or flight survival response to hostile environments. Within us as captives, the higher African spiritual mindset began to atrophy, began to degenerate for a lack of a sustained attention, utilization, and focus. Diasporic Africans, unbeknownst to the majority of us, began to devolve spiritually over the subsequent 20 to 25 generations. We began to revert back to a type, that is, a type of African never before witnessed or experienced by ourselves. A new type of African was created, a religious African. We began to psychologically metamorphosize in the hostile atmosphere of a Willie Lynch environment, which caused us to revert, or should I say convert. Let me say that again. Y'all didn't hear that. Africans didn't revert, we converted to a pathological, artificial, cultivated phenotype, made in the image and likeness of our external slave master, who rewired us to self-perpetuate, anti-spiritual, non-critical, non-logical behaviorisms. Beloved brothers and sisters, over subsequent generations, our pathogenic conditioning began to bear fruit. That under the psychological and genetic pruning tools of Willie Lynch, we became spiritually stultified, robbed of our archetypal memory banks, robbed of our genetic reflex to the creator spirit within us. Like the careful cultivation of the Japanese bonsai tree, African and indigenous peoples were spiritually, genetically, and creatively pruned for generations, so that our very soul's ancient association and connection to the triple black cosmic mother would systematically and continuously be diminished. Mighty oaks, redwoods, and baobabs reduced to the size of shrubs, thistles, and weeds. Anybody know what the Japanese bonsai tree is? You can turn an oak this size. All you got to do is just keep pruning it. And that's who we are. Well-pruned bonsais. And to seal the bargain, to shut the door forever, the slave master pruner taught and conditioned the traumatized African mind to supplant his natural, abstract, metaphysically reflexive, inquiring mind with that of the non-critical, non-questioning, non-analytical functionism of the religiously indoctrinated mind. With reference to the examples given to above about the rose, the strawberry, and the birds, African spiritual scientists were actually and acutely aware of this fact called the principle of reversion to type. They considered it in every real work that they have ever done. They always knew that man would revert back to type if he did not keep his culture. This they describe in their depictions of the tenuous polarity of equilibrium between Set and Heru, between Set and Osiris Osar. You see, these were cosmic forces that represented a form of gravitation felt between the higher and lower natures of man. Heru, Set, all of these were not people. Just like no man, no woman, no nothing ever existed in the Bible or in the Quran.
It's a fact.
Oh, man. Tell a Christian he didn't have a history. Tell a Muslim that nothing like that ever existed. Tell a Jew that none of these patriarchs that they're talking about and gods and forces that never existed. And my own brother will kill me.
Fuck him.
Our ancestors saw this tendency towards chaos, atrophy, disequilibrium.
See, I thought the guy was finna build on it. He ain't building on it. So I'm going to build on it. Every symbol, every deity, every energy, every spirit, every angel, every demon, every god, goddesses, spoken in any religion, any organization within spirituality or the occult, is an energy that resonates within you. And it's up to you to do the fucking work and find out the meaning of that energy. But you can be a slave and, pray to it, give up your energy and give up offerings and so forth, But I can't say that's necessarily being a slave. Well, to a degree it is. We're looking at it from the God perspective. Well, at least I am. From a God perspective, you're a fucking slave. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're giving offerings, fucking water, fucking orange juice, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be water. Who the fuck wants water as offerings? Fuck is this, nigga? Fuck is this? The 1500s? Nigga, pull me up some motherfucking orange juice, nigga. Pull me up some Calypso, nigga. Pull me up some motherfucking 1800, nigga. Pull me up some whiskey, nigga. Some cognac, nigga. You know what I'm saying? That's an offering, nigga. That's some shit a motherfucking entity or deity might want, nigga. But water? Fucking mortal. But even at that level, even giving a fucking offering, you know what I'm saying? You gotta be doing some type of work. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be talking to your fucking ancestors, not some random fucking deity. You know what I'm saying? Which is basically an energy. But if you associate with the deity itself, not on a personal level, but on the external level, as in you're making a relationship with this deity on an external basis and not an internal basis, you're a fucking slave. Even doing it on that level is like, damn, peace and blessings, folks. You really need to work. You know what I'm saying? But everything Phil is talking about are symbols and energies that resonate with inside every individual with a soul. If you would like further information about these different deities and whatnot, you can go to my website, which is what is my website? There we go. So if you want further information, you can go to my website regarding the deities. So if you're interested in finding out what different deities represent on the energetic level and what deities may resonate, or I should say, what deities are the same as other deities, or what deities are based upon other deities, one or the other, it doesn't matter, however you want to perceive it. The book that I would recommend to do that knowledge on is this. And let it pull up. Encyclopedia of Ancient Deities. Let's just find a random fucking deity. Hold on. Let's just scroll on some random shit. Of course, I'm looking for Isis. I'm gonna tell everybody right now, I resonate with the Kemetic pantheon. So it doesn't matter what deity we're talking about. It could be from a civilization I never heard about, and you just talk about it and you explain the deity to me. I could instantly point out, based on the attributes of whatever deity it is you may be talking about, what that deity represents within myself. I can instantly make the internal connection because I resonate with the Kemetic pantheon. For example, patroness of living wives and mothers, goddess of earth, goddess of the earth, protector of the dead, as the Greeks called her Isis, Paharia, the protector of seamen. She assimilates the functions of many other goddesses, known as the Cunning One. Isis is the daughter of Geb, Nut, the sister wife of Osiris, and the sister of Set and Neph. How you say it? Neph. Oh fuck, I'm finna butcher this name. Neph. Oh fuck, I'm not finna butcher the name. I'm not finna do that. I'm just not gonna do it. Goddess of death. Yeah, I'm not butchering the name. Goddess of death. Okay. It seems like it seems like this is a feminine aspect of Set or Sut. She is the mother of Horus. Osiris was treacherously slain and dismembered by Seth, Isis, and her sister, Neph. I'm not butchering the name. One, the universe searching for the parts of his body to restore him to life. Isis wanted the same power as Ra, the same powers that Ra held, and she knew everything about his secret name. She tricked Ra by sending a serpent to poison him with his bite and made him reveal his name. By doing so, her powers became great. Isis, Osiris, Horus formed the powerful Egyptian trinity. She was the principal goddess of ancient Egypt and identified with the moon by Plutarch. How you pronounce that? Let me see. Excuse me. Plutarch. Is that how you say it? Plutarch. By Plutarch. I might be saying that wrong. Although the ancient Egyptians regarded her as the eye of Ra, Isis is said to typify the female side of civilization and the struggle with the barbarianism, as Osiris embodies the male aspect. Okay. I'm sorry, I just got into it a little, like, not even forgetting I was on camera. Isis represents that aspect of you that says, let me give grace to those in humanity, but at the same time, let me also focus on the inner work. That's Isis. That's the energy of Isis. Let me give grace to the humans, but let me focus on the inner work as well. Let me have compassion for the child. I might nurture the child time to time, but that's only out of compassion. You can understand the child is a child. You know what I'm saying? But remember, Isis is identified with Hathor. Hathor is Horus. Horus is a fucking hero, a warrior. Horus steps up to his fucking power by any means. Horus rises to the Godhead, raises Kundalini. Fuck what's in his path. I'm raising to my Christhood. You know what I'm saying? Horus stand on fucking business. So like I say, it's Isis represents that balance, having the balance of self by understanding that yes, you are still in humanity for the time being because you have a human body, but at the same, understand that you have a human body. So yes, you're still in humanity, but at the same time, understand that this shit is temporary. You know what I'm saying? And because it's temporary, you need to always focus on the Godhead. Have compassion for the humans. You know what I'm saying? Drop jewels on them when you can, but focus on self. You know what I'm saying? Focus on the Godhead. Focus on raising the Kundalini up the staff. You know what I'm saying? The staff being your spine. Up the staff of Tahuti. The staff of Tahuti is your spine. You know what I'm saying? As you raise Kundalini, nigga, you split the Red Sea. The Red Sea is your spine. The Red Sea is your blood. The staff is your spine. You know what I'm saying? This is all scriptures are talking about the inner workings of your own body. Some of them talking about the inner workings of your soul. Some of them talking about the inner workings of your spirit. You need to be a fucking scientist when it comes to this information in order to decode the different meanings that are constantly being revealed to you at every given point within a scripture. But you have to be advanced in your understanding. You need to understand not only that these are symbols, but you need to understand self at the highest degree before we even focus on putting imagery with an energy. You know what I'm saying? But why I pull up ISIS in the first place? I'm all off topic and shit, right? The guy was talking about different deities and shit, and saying how the different deities are still one, and how different deities still have. No, he wasn't saying that, but this is what I was saying. Different deities link back to other deities. For instance, we got Isis right here. I read the shit and I got into it. This is what happens when I get on this though. The Encyclopedia of Ancient Deities, it's always something new I'm learning. Even though I might have read it before, it's like always a new realization every time I read this information. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm always working on myself. So I could read some shit 2, 3, 4 times, and every time I'm having a breakthrough. But in relation to Isis is Ishtar in Babylon. So in the Babylonian mythology, Ishtar is Isis. Let's see who else. Oh man, look at this. Science. Venus in Rome. You know, Rome is similar to Greece in that regards, because you know Zeus is Jupiter. So we about to really get into some science. Oh, Anubis. Well, we know all deities come from Sut, and then I think it went Sut, Anubis, and then the energy kept getting broken down into different sections and dispersed in male and feminine and so forth. You know, at the end of the day, we're androgynous beings. So we're not male or female. The energy is both masculine and feminine. And that's within self. So Anubis represents that energy. Atum, you got Gab. This is Kemet. Horus. You know what I'm saying? Osiris. This is Kemet. Ra, Kemet. Satis, Sadies. Satis. I never heard that. Selene. Serapis. Serapis. We're just talking about Set. Set is the oldest form of worship. Not Set. It's Sut. Is it Set or is it Sut Typhon? It might be Set. I gotta do the knowledge on that. It's either Set or Sut Typhon. It might be Sut Typhon. And I go into the Typhonian mythology or pantheon, however one most perceive it. See, I still got to do the knowledge. I'm just thinking of this shit, you know what I'm saying? But I'm showing this just to show you. All of these are different deities. No, excuse me. Well, yeah, all of these are different deities that still represents Osiris, or this is all these different names are Osiris in different pantheons, I should say. So Babylonian pantheon, the Phoenician Phoenicia, maybe it's Phoenician or Phoenicia pantheon, the Roman pantheon. Look, it's a different form of the Babylonian pantheon. I gotta tap in with that. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Nigga, I gotta do the knowledge. Like I say, this master student, I'm here to learn. And as y'all can see, my brain is getting blown every time I just read a couple sentences or a word. So the point I'm saying is tap into the website. You gain a lot of information just by going to occultstudent.com. I put a decent amount of occult books, metaphysical, spiritual books on here. And yeah, I think you guys will love it, man. Even got some books up here. We got one of the was the first hour reflection up here. Got some good quotes. I was a Nag Hammadi. Oh, y'all know what the Nag Hammadi is. We got some good quotes out the Nag Hammadi on the page as well. And yeah. I think it's been over an hour, but let's just listen to a little more.
Generation as a deeply rooted active principle that they had to resist because an overindulgence in their lower natures kept them trapped within continuous cycles of regeneration and reincarnation. All that said, when looking at ourselves today, how do we describe what we see? How do we describe and define this new paradigm mutation of an archetypal African spirit? Who is this pathogenic devolution of African spirituality? Who is this doppelganger, this schizophrenic twin now identified as a Negro, an ex-slave, a nigger, a black, an African-American, an Afro-American, a minority, underprivileged, undereducated, underclass, Muslim, Hebrew, Israelite, a Christian? All of the derogatory terminologies that we in our state of spiritual amnesia have come to claim as our own identities, terminologies, substituted for our rightful classifications as the dark matter father and mother of civilization, the cradle of civilization, astronomer, astrologer, scientist, doctor, alchemist. But you're a Christian now. You're no longer a mason, a sculptor, a scribe, a botanist, an agriculturist, a geologist, an architect, a psychologist, a warrior, a Kemite, Kushite, Ashanti, Dravidian, Olmec, Mayan, Moor, Twi, Bantu, Zulu, Yamakra, Yamasi, Creek, Seminole, Sumerian, Atlantean, Lemurian. You see, beloved brothers and sisters, today religious-minded Africans and indigenous peoples, both here and on the continent, have a genuine, deep-seated paranoid schizophrenia of actually being associated with the above descriptions of our ancestors. None of y'all want to say that you're African. None of y'all want to say that you're from there. Kemite, you Egyptian? No, the Egyptians held us. They held the Jews in slavery. They even got black people in the Hebrew Israelites really believe the Egyptians did that. But if they look at their books, the Jews have always been in bondage because Jews, quote unquote, in the Bible never existed. The Jew is simply matter. Let me say that again.
No, break it down, dog. Break it down.
The Jew simply means matter. That which is bound up in matter. That which is bound up on the third density. So Jews always going to be in captivity. Because Jews represent the spirit bound in matter. That's it. No big to do. No great big story to go. No worry about parting the waves and all that bullshit. The Red Sea is your blood. The Israelites are your genetics. Most religious-minded black people have developed disassociative mentalities and get rabidly indignant if you dare to say that they are Africans 500 years removed. Negroes like Stanley Crouch, who know for an unequivocal fact that they are Americans. Always were and always have been.
We gonna stop it there. You know, we can definitely get back to this on another hour of reflection and finish this up. But this is the longest hour of reflection, and you know, I feel like there was a lot of great building points during this lecture, and I really hope that everybody take heed to the information, the gnosis, the knowledge, wisdom, understanding that was presented today on this lecture. You know, Phil is one of my top 3 master teachers. He gives information that transcends faith and reason, which allows me to reach a higher state. So peace to the God, and thank you for tapping in with Master Student. Let's continue to learn. Peace.
Walking my own path. A follower would never understand the leader. Life a bitch, but I still won't mistreat her.
Transfer light to my kin so they